Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 85 of the Neat Nerd Podcast. I'm your host, Heezy, and I'm joined by my co-host, a man whose beard is back, Paddy B.
Oh yeah, the beard is back, baby. Hey, everyone.
Do you like the beard at its current length? How big do you want it?
It can be a little cumbersome at longer lengths. Wife definitely prefers the beard to the goatee or the mustache.
Sure.
But
See,
this
this is my favorite beard length, that I have right now. This is where I'm happy. It's not itchy. You get the benefit of hiding your neck, your double chin, and it's good.
That was one of the things that was So I had a pretty long beard for a long time, and when I shaved for doing Hunchback, we talked about last week a little bit. Yeah, that was one of the things that was shocking to me. It was like you forget about that with the beard. But I do get a lot of compliments at this length specifically. So good talk.
Well, I think you look pretty good. We aren't going to be talking too much more about beards today. I mean, I don't know. There could be some beards that get mentioned, but we are going to be talking about one of the greatest franchises in history, the Infinity Saga of the MCU, from Iron Man 1 to Endgame. We're talking about each of our top 5 Infinity Saga films. Before we do that, Nerd Fact of the Week. This is estimated, but in just the US and Canada, the Infinity Saga films, from what I could gather, grossed $7 billion, almost $8 billion, not including 2020 re-releases,
Wow.
which would have put it over $8 billion in US and Canada only, so not including worldwide gross. This would make it the most successful movie franchise as far as total dollars. It doesn't beat out Star Wars as far as dollars per film, but as Star Wars is only a little bit behind it and has substantially less films. But
Right.
it is astounding, what they could do. And I want to give a bonus fact of the week that when the MCU was starting, the X-Men had already been, licensed to Fox. Fantastic Four had been licensed to Paramount. All of the big Marvel names were already gone, right?
Yeah, they sold all their properties.
Sony has Spider-Man, so all of the big names are already gone. So what do you do at that point? And the way that Disney and Marvel went about this is they actually got study groups of kids together and they showed them different characters and they asked which one they'd most likely to play with a toy of them. And that is how we ended up with Iron Man as the main character of the MCU.
That's pretty cool, but it also makes sense, right? Toy sales drive a lot of things in these movies, right? As far as when a character changes costume, they get to make a new toy, or they introduce someone new, they get to make a new toy. So that totally makes sense that would be, a driver as far as what they, who they chose to lead. Because I think the plan may have been Avengers, right, with the roster that they had that whole time. But who is the leader and how that all shaped up? That definitely makes sense.
Really quickly, just want to do some housekeeping. Don't forget to check out the Discord. We got some people joining, just a couple people the last few weeks. We got people talking Smash. We got people talking Magic. We got people dropping memes. Tons of things. Also, it's preview season for Magic the Gathering now, so lots of cards to talk about and stuff like that. So heading over there. If you want to talk about these films, yeah, I'm gonna be. I'd love to do a movie night sometime in the Discord too. I think that'd be really fun if people are interested in that. So let's dive in though. So each of us have put together a list of our top 5 Marvel film or Infinity Saga films specifically.
Yes.
And we're gonna just popcorn back and forth, starting at number 5. I'll go first. My number 5 is Endgame. And I know for a lot of people this might be their number 1 favorite movie of all time. And for me, it certainly was really high up there on my movie going experiences. Um, I think we all know the scene where everybody comes together, and yeah, where Captain America gets Milner. Uh,
Mjolnir.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
And honestly, like, if you think about it, Hulk and Iron Man came out in 2008. I mean, it's a decade of film going, and I I cried like when that. I think a lot of people did, but I mean, we all know that I'm a crier. Like if you've been listening to the show, you know that. But I cried. My wife cried. Like and not even at the death. Like just that moment was a
Which,
culmination of.
spoilers, if you haven't seen these movies, go watch them. They're great.
Oh yeah, I didn't say who died.
That's it, exactly. Yeah. Before we got any further or more momenty, make sure if you
Yeah,
haven't seen these movies, go see them.
yeah. The Infinity Saga. I actually watched the most of the Infinity Saga with my wife last year again. We just were like watching them chronologically in release order. It was really
Sure.
fun. But honestly, like Endgame, I think it will always hold like a special place in my heart. Of like, I can't wait for Maxwell to get to watch these films. I'm straight up gonna make him wait a year. I know that that's like a meme now, but I'll straight up
Oh
make him wait a
no.
year between watching watching Infinity War and watching Endgame.
Okay, so you're not gonna do that for the whole Infinity Saga, but you're gonna split up Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah, he doesn't get to
Yeah.
watch. He has to
Okay.
wait a year.
Ah. Oh,
I'm a
baby,
terrible parent. Maybe not.
you're a great dad.
Maybe I'll make him wait a week or something. Be like, nope, you gotta
Or
wait.
like a few months, like a couple months.
Yeah, but no, I think Endgame rightfully holds like a special place, and it was so. What I really liked about it is how different it was than Infinity War 2, where
Hmm.
like it didn't feel like part 1 and part 2 to me. Like it really did feel like a different film, and like it had a different tone. Um, yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. And it's obviously really long. It's one of the harder ones to get to rewatch because it's so long. Kind of like that's how I feel about some of the some of my favorite films are all really long, and this is one that's really tough to get to rewatch because it takes so long. So,
Yeah,
what about
3 hours and 2 minutes the
yeah?
runtime on that.
What is your number five?
Yeah, so my number five is original Iron Man, released in 2008. Um, I, you know, I was a sophomore in high school, freshman, somewhere around there, right when that movie came out, and that was just like huge. They all wanted to be Iron Man. I wanted to be Iron Man. I wanted to be a billionaire playboy philanthropist. Um, and I think it's one of the movies that I've watched like the most times. Right. So that first one just kind of came at a point in my life when it was, just a really, you know, crucial like a in that time frame in that age. And I've watched it a bunch. And I've loved that movie. I love Jeff Bridges. I think at some point we should do a review of Lebowski. Um, so,
I've never seen The Big Lebowski.
oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite films.
Everybody says that. We should
Yeah,
definitely do that. I actually think that Bridges crushes it in this film,
yeah,
and I think that like John Favreau as Happy is like it really sets the pace for a lot of the MCU through
hmm
and obviously, can you imagine if anybody else can you even imagine Iron Man without Robert Downey Jr. at this point?
I can't. It's gonna be weird transitioning into like we met Ironheart in Wakanda Forever. So that'll be cool to see.
Don't know
Um,
who that is. Haven't seen the movie.
what, you haven't seen Wakanda Forever yet?
Nope.
Oh, buddy, we gotta. It's really good. Especially I think we can talk about this now. Our both of our number fours is Black Panther.
Yeah.
All right, so this movie also holds think something with our at least my top five. They it, they each have kind of like this special place for me within the all the movies that Marvel made. Um, Black Panther was so different when it came out, right? Ryan Coogler did a fantastic job, and it really got, I think, people excited about Marvel movies again. Sometimes there's been times, especially like now, we've kind of talked about that a little bit, where kind of a lull in interest in the Marvel franchise. Um, and I think Black Panther was one of those um, really like signpost movies that got people excited for Marvel movies again.
Yeah, so for me, like, I really love The Lion King. Like, I love it so much that
Yeah,
it just wasn't hard for me to put this on my list. So,
yeah.
no, joke aside, no, well, it is,
Lion King, the superhero movie.
yeah. Uh, I think, that, one, I think that the tone of this movie was so different than the other Marvel movies. It was a really fresh. It, one of the complaints that people give about Marvel movies, right, is like, oh, they're all the same, and like Black Panther is just not the same as the
Mhm.
other Marvel movies. It asks questions. It introduces complex, complex problems for both the people of Wakanda, for Black Panther, for just the world, and like how we view resources and things like that. It's just a really good one.
Resources and yeah, the different experiences, right? That Killmonger had living in Oakland,
Yeah,
right? To uh, T'Challa in Wakanda, right? That whole dynamic is a conversation as well. It was
yeah,
really great. In fact,
uh,
I think Killmonger is actually one of the best Marvel villains that we've had as well. Michael B. Jordan crushed it.
yeah. I think so too. And obviously, the uh, the way that the women loved the scars on him was something else. I don't get it, but apparently it was a big deal.
He was jocked, man.
I also just think Michael B. Jordan is just great. So,
Hmm. Same
uh,
here.
all right, your number three is literally one of the best movies ever made. So, give me.
So my number three, I really, we talked about this at the beginning, where realized that my number three, I just didn't set my top five right, as far as the movie that I had initially selected is not technically an Infinity Saga film. So I moved one of my honorable mentions in back into the top five. It's they're all super close, um, but it's Civil War for me, um, and you'll kind of understand. I guess we can talk about it here. It's a lot of the same reasons why my number one is what my number one is, right? Is some of those conflicts um, that, like you mentioned with Black Panther, that they ask you questions, right? Like some of those relationships between Bucky and Steve and Iron Man, that kind of tension and conflict, um, which is great. And it's like Civil War was the first time we got to see Spider-Man in the MCU, right? And so that was great to have happen, and it was like a mini Avengers movie because everyone was involved on each side of the conflict.
Uh, I know that we're popcorning this, but I'm gonna say this is my number one. Um, I there's so many reasons. You mentioned some of them. The introduction to Spider-Man into the MCU is like unbelievable, and the way they did it was really good. So
Hmm.
that's first of all. Um, Second, like the story of this film itself and how it follows both two sides, right? It follows the the fall of the Avengers, but also the start of this new era of the MCU, this new part of the MCU.
Hmm.
And I think that one, I walked out of that movie. I remember specifically walking out of that movie, and I said, I don't think that there's another Marvel movie at this time that comes close. And I watched it with Alex Sinner, and he goes, "I thought Winter Soldier was the best, and I think that this beats it. I think it was that good." And it it has a lot of the kind of tonal stuff of Winter Soldier, while being bigger, grander, introducing more things. We just watched the trailer. We paused the show. I was behind the scenes to watch the trailer, and I literally got goosebumps. I remember watching that trailer the first time, and we didn't even know Spider-Man was in it yet, and I was like, "Holy crap!"
Well, they kept that one pretty well under wraps at the time. We didn't know Spider-Man was going to be in that movie for a great while.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he was in like the trailer, like at on. He was in one of the trailers because we saw him holding Captain America's shield in one of the trailers, right?
Maybe like closer to
Yeah.
release, but
But that first trailer that drops, and you have that ending scene where they're throwing the shield at Iron Man, Bucky, and Captain America. It's just like it's iconic. It's
like Godfather. Look how they massacred my boy.
yeah. It's I think that this is just actually one of the best movies ever made. It has so much payoff. It has so much build up. It has so much setup. It is, in all honesty, like if you think about it, it's almost like a bridge film for for Infinity War and stuff, and it does it so well. It's like the Empire. To me, it's like the Empire of this entire series.
Sure, I can see that. There's a lot of good reasons. All for what it's worth am with Sittner about Winter Soldier. So
No, he said this one's better.
oh, did he?
He flipped.
He folded. Okay.
He folded. Let's go to my number 3 though. I have Spider-Man: Homecoming as my number 3.
Yeah.
Really good introduction to Peter Parker. Really, also it was a really nice change of pace for like what the MCU was at the time, where you go from something like Civil War to this, and you're like, oh, this is like refreshing. This is like a kid, coming of age tale a little bit. It was a nice change of pace.
100%. Yeah. No. The like dealing with the ramifications of New York, right? Like seeing the people like the Tinkerer and Vulture scrapping for things like that. That made sense. Michael Keaton was a fantastic villain. I loved Flash and stuff in that movie. Homecoming is great.
Yeah, I also thought it was like a nice. I think that what Sony and Marvel have done together to like refresh Spider-Man has also just been really powerful and like really different. It didn't feel like we were getting the same old in a lot of different ways. And obviously, like you mentioned, how No Way Home would have been in your top 3. I mean, if it could have been, No Way Home might have been my number 1. I think that movie's just...
that movie's just so good.
But I think that this introduction, this first foray into a full Tom Holland Spider-Man movie was really good, and really did a good job of like helping us understand his Peter Parker, his motivations. Like he just wants to be a hero. He just wants to do good, and you really get to see that in that movie. Also, Spider-Man's just my favorite superhero. So
yeah, Spider-Man's great, and I love Tom Holland. And yeah, if I could have, No Way Home would have been on this list, but we're talking Infinity Saga films.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 is actually Infinity War. So kind of for the same reasons that you had Endgame, right? It's another kind of turning point where things changed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's kind of this culmination. It all led up to Infinity War, right? And the storytelling in Infinity War was like Black Panther was different than what we've seen, right? The superheroes weren't. It's a movie about Thanos, right? And so that kind of changed. The superheroes were obviously the other side, right? But felt more tertiary. It was more about Thanos and getting the stones, and the snap for him. And so that's why I love Infinity War, that it's, a story about Thanos and not necessarily about the heroes.
Uh, Infinity War has like another bunch of iconic moments, like the Iron Spider suit appearing for the first
Mm-hmm.
time was
Mm-hmm.
like chef's kiss. Uh, the one of the best Iron Man the nanobot transition for Iron Man was also chef's kiss. Uh, just the internal struggle of Bruce was like amazing. Uh,
Having them
getting
all fighting Thanos,
yeah,
right? That whole battle sequence on Titan.
yeah, the Titan sequence was awesome. I also think that seeing Cap with like the star ripped off and like in this black suit,
Mm-hmm.
really cool. I don't know. There's just like a lot of really cool moments.
Well, that's the first time we kind of saw him after, aside from, well, I guess that was Infinity War, huh? That was the first time we kind of saw him after Civil War. Was he kind of was not, he didn't have the stars and stripes. He was kind of rogue ops. If you need me, I'll be here, right? So he sends him the phone at the end. So that yeah, that was cool. Also seeing the Guardians finally interact with everyone in
What?
the
What?
Earth base.
What? Wait, 5 4. What do you want me to say? Jesus?
Okay.
That's a good one. My number two is Thor Ragnarok. I think the Thor movies get a bad rap for no reason. I don't understand people's hatred for the Thor movies. When we were rewatching, we actually watched Dark World, and I was like, this movie is not as bad as everybody says it is. Like, it's not great, but it's not like Doctor Strange bad. Like, this movie's fine.
USOB. I was gonna say that, like, the same thing applies for Doctor Strange. I think that the way you feel about Thor is how I feel about Doctor Strange. Right? Those movies are not as bad as
Spencer says.
people as Spencer says. Yes.
I think those movies are beloved. I don't know that anybody but me gives those movies crap.
Yeah, I don't know.
Uh,
Ragnarok was great.
yeah, Ragnarok is one. It really brought the tone of Thor into this new era, which I really appreciated. I really loved the introduction of Valkyrie. I really loved, uh, just the friend from work line is obviously iconic. He's a friend from work. The whole movie's just fantastic.
Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, Jeff Goldblum's character is
Ugh.
amazing. Just like the battle on the bridge is fantastic. Like the whole thing is really out of this world, and it's just the funniest. Like it is so different. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't need a comedy superhero movie." It's like, well, why not? Like this one was really funny.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be just action. Yeah, no, the comedy is great. Korg is one of my favorite
Oh my
characters.
gosh, Korg is so freaking funny, and
Yeah.
the delivery is just on point. All right, I crack myself up if I think about that too much. What
Yeah.
is your number one?
Yeah. So I rewatched this again today just to remind myself about why it was my number one. This morning I rewatched The Winter Soldier, and I think it has, like we kind of mentioned, it has a lot of those same things with Civil War tonally. It was another huge shift for Marvel movies. I think this was the first movie that the Russos did, um, for Marvel, and they just kept releasing banger after banger. They're fantastic directors, um, and this kind of was, until we got the Widow movie the last couple years. This kind of felt like Black Widow's not solo film, right? We got to see a lot more about her character, kind of the falling of Shield, right? Up to this point, the Marvel movies were very Shield centric and based around this organization, and it's really plausible that, like, the corruption in government, could happen like that, and we see the kind of the fall of Shield. Um, it was great. Some iconic stuff like the elevator fight scene. Um, just it chef's kiss with the Bucky's my it starts those seeds that made Civil War so great as far as the Bucky
The Bucky saga.
and Steve kind of relationship.
Yeah, I think that on your left,
On your left. Oh.
the Winter Soldier does a really, really good job of helping you understand the struggle that frustrates Steve so much throughout the rest of the movies, right? And I think it's really easy to understand where Steve is coming from because of how well this movie does.
Right. Everyone is telling lies or going around things and not necessarily doing what's right. And it bugs him so much that, like, oh, you're in the wrong occupation. I can't trust you. Right? How can I work with you if I can't trust you? If I don't know if you have a different mission than what I have, right? That yeah, it leads to all the stuff that happens in Civil War.
Yeah, I think that Winter Soldier is one of those movies that will probably just be like a classic, like rewatch forever. Mm-hmm. I wanna go back to my number one. I think that Civil War is one of my favorite movies of all time because it does a lot of the things that we're talking about of a lot of these films. Like, it takes the tone of Winter Soldier, it gives you some of the comedy around, like Thor Ragnarok. It gives you, the refreshingness, in all honesty, of like Spider-Man: Homecoming. It was like an Avengers film that didn't need to be an Avengers film, which was really cool. And then it also introduced us to a ton of really cool characters. Like, we didn't even mention that it introduced us to Black Panther.
Right, yeah, because that was the whole thing with the Sokovia Accords, and the bombing there. Which, yeah, man, like, I get Iron Man's side eventually in the end. Like, when he finds out that Bucky killed his mom, right? Like, there's no coming back from that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. When you asked which team I was on, I thought you meant about whether or not to sign the accord or sign the...
It was partially that, right? So the Accords are, like, I understand, like, why Iron Man felt like... So I think that's a great thing, and it leads to these kind of conversations, right? Like, I understand with everything that happened, right? All the collateral damage and stuff, like, why normal people felt like something was needed, right, for the Sokovia Accords, and why Iron Man had felt compelled to go along with that. And I also understand why Cap was completely against it.
Yeah, because we just watched You just talked about it in Winter Soldier, right? Like, why would Cap sign this?
He wouldn't. There's no way he was doing that.
So, I love it. I think it's just one of the best movies ever. If you want to suggest a topic, don't forget to leave a comment here on the YouTube channel. We'd love to hear it. Those are our top 5. Let us know what yours are. I want to know. I'd be interested. Like, is it number 1, Doctor Strange? Number 2, Thor: Dark World? Number 3? No, that's nobody's. But, like, what are your top 5? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear it.
Or in the Discord too. We'll maybe in the movies stuff section or something. We'll have you post your top 5 there.
Yeah, I'll actually post a comment there. That being said, we can't make it the poll this week because you forgot to do the poll last week on Twitter, Patty.
I suck.
You don't suck. Always improving.
You're right. Always improving. Gotta post that on Twitter. I'll also need to post that in Discord. Speaking of Twitter, in last week's episode, we had something really kind of cool happen after that. You mentioned, the creators of the movie would definitely see our episode. And
I did say that, yes.
And that definitely happened. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so Jeff Nimoy got to watch the episode. He really appreciated that we got it, that we invited Mikey on to have another person who'd done, indie directing, and Yeah, it was just really cool. I knew that he'd watch it, and it's like, it's your baby, right? You want to see what people are saying about it. Obviously, like, we do this podcast, and it's like a micro version of what he had to put into to make his baby happen.
Yeah,
So
that was super cool to see those comments. I was like, oh,
I'm glad
thanks for
that did it make
watching.
your day. I'm so
It
glad.
did. It really made my day.
Yeah. So that being said, Patty's post we're gonna be up. I'll post it on the Spotify. But what is your favorite part of an anime/fan convention? Is it the cosplay? Is it the meet and greet? Is it the artists? Or is it other? That is going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. You can find me at Spencer H. You can find Patty at PattyBMTG. You can find us at San Diego for the DreamHack in April. If you want to come up and say hi to us, I'd love to meet some Need to Nerd listeners. Love to sling with some fans or some listeners. And I'm really excited to do that, Patty.
Yeah, me too. DreamHack is going to be a bunch of fun, and hopefully we'll do some other fun stuff in California.
Yeah, I'd love to check out this. I just want to go check out the Smashers as they and to
Right.
see how that's going. You can like, you can subscribe, you can check out the Constructive Criticism Network, you can check out Smash Through, and then leave a review. It helps the show out a ton. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening, and we'll see everybody next week with another episode of the Need to Nerd podcast.